All right, let's talk about AI. It is absolutely everywhere. And let's be real, it can be a lot to keep up with. It feels like every single day there's a new term, a new tool, a new mind-blowing breakthrough. So, how in the world are you supposed to keep track of it all? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We are going to build your AI survival kit for 2026. All the essentials without any of the fluff. Let's jump in.
So, this is our map for today. I know, it might look a little complicated at first glance, like some crazy spider web, but I want you to think of it as a blueprint for understanding modern AI. And don't worry, we're going to walk through this together, piece by piece. By the end of this, you'll be able to look at this and see a clear picture.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. We've got 5 main stops on our tour. We'll start at the very beginning with the foundations of AI. Then, we'll get into how it actually learns. From there, we'll dive into the generative AI that has completely changed the game. Then we'll look at how people are actually building with it. And finally, we'll take a peek into the future with something called agentic AI.
Okay, first things first. With anything this big and complex, you have to start with the basics. So let's go right to the very center of our map and talk about the core ideas that everything else is built on.
And it all starts with this one, artificial intelligence, or AI. This is the big, giant umbrella term for the whole field. It's the original dream, going back decades, of creating technology that can think, reason, and learn in a way that feels, well, human.
So, how did we start making that dream a reality? That's where machine learning, or ML, comes in. This really flipped the script. Instead of a programmer sitting down and writing millions of if this, then that rules, with ML, we just give the computer a whole lot of data and let it figure out the patterns and rules for itself.
And this is the powerhouse behind all the most incredible AI we see today. Deep learning is like a supercharged version of machine learning. It uses something called neural networks, which are actually inspired by the structure of our own brains. By having lots and lots of layers, these networks can find super complex, subtle patterns in huge amounts of data. This is how an AI can understand your voice or recognize a face in a photo.
Okay, so we know that AI learns from data, but how does that actually work? What does learning even mean for a machine? Let's move on to the next part of our kit and look at the real building blocks of how machines learn.
So there are 2 main ways this happens. On one hand, you've got supervised learning. This is kind of like studying with flashcards. You show the AI a million pictures of cats, and for each one you say, this is a cat. It learns with a teacher. On the other hand, you have unsupervised learning. This is more like being a detective. You give the AI a giant, messy box of photos with no labels, and its job is to figure out how to sort them into groups that make sense on its own.
Then there's this third really cool method, reinforcement learning. And this is all about trial and error. The AI tries to do something. It gets a point, a reward, if it does it right, and it gets a penalty if it messes up. Over and over again, it learns from that feedback. It's literally how you train a dog with treats, or how you get really good at a video game.
Okay, but how does all of this, supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning, how does that connect to the tools we actually hear about every day, like ChatGPT or all those AI image generators? Well, these learning methods are the fundamental recipes used to cook up those incredibly powerful models.
And that brings us to the generative revolution. This is the stuff that has taken AI out of the research labs and put it right into our pockets. Seriously, if you've ever used a chatbot or played around with an AI art tool, you have been front and center for this revolution.
So let's meet the key players. You've got LLMs, large language models, which are the brains behind chatbots. Then there are vision models, which give AI its sense of sight. Now, when you combine those senses, text, images, audio, you get what's called multimodal AI. And those amazing images you see everywhere? Those are usually made by diffusion models, which are like digital artists. All these things working together are what makes generative AI so powerful.
But, a survival kit isn't just about the cool tools. It's also about knowing the dangers. And a really important one in AI is something called hallucination. This is when an AI will just confidently make stuff up. It'll state something as fact that is completely and totally wrong. It's not trying to lie to you, it's just making a really confident statistical mistake. Knowing this can happen is absolutely key to using these tools the right way.
So, now we've got the core concepts down, we've talked about the generative models that are everywhere, but you're probably wondering, how does this all go from being an idea in a lab to being a real app on your phone? How do people actually build with it? Well, let's pop the hood and find out. Welcome to the workshop. This next section is all about the tools, the platforms, and the architectures.
the real nuts and bolts that developers use to bring AI applications to life.
Now, don't feel like you need to memorize this whole list. The best way to think about these are as the brand names of the AI world. You've got the big platforms like OpenAI and Google who create the foundational models. You've got the frameworks like TensorFlow that developers use to actually build AI, and you've got things like vector databases, which basically give these AIs a super efficient memory.
And these are like the secret recipes for making AI even smarter. Take RAG, for example. That's a technique that lets an AI pull in fresh, up-to-the-minute information from the internet, so it's not stuck in the past. Or fine-tuning. That's like taking a general AI and sending it to medical school so it becomes an expert in a very specific field.
We've covered the past, we've covered the present. So for our final section, let's look ahead. Let's talk about what many experts believe is the next huge leap forward for artificial intelligence.
And that future is agentic AI. This is a really big shift in thinking. It's moving from AI as a simple tool to AI as a teammate. Think about it. Right now, you give a chatbot a prompt, and it gives you a response. That's it. An AI agent, on the other hand, you can give it a goal, like plan a weekend trip to Paris for my family, and it will work on its own to make that happen.
And here's a little peek at what makes them so different. They can actually make a plan and act on it. They can use tools like a web browser or connect to databases. They can take a huge, complicated goal and break it down into smaller, manageable steps. And, this is the real game changer, they can look at their own work, critique it, and correct their own mistakes as they go, all without you having to micromanage every little thing.
This quote from the person who created our map today really hits the nail on the head. It says, 2026 will belong to those who understand how AI works, not just how to use it. And that's exactly what this is all about. Just using the tools is one thing, but really understanding the pieces, the foundation, how it learns, the tools, and where it's all headed, that's what really prepares you for what's coming next.
And there you have it. Your AI survival kit is packed. You've got the map, you've got the key concepts, and you have the fundamental knowledge to navigate this incredibly exciting and, complex world of AI. So the only question left is, now that this kit is in your hands, what are you going to do with it? What will you build? What will you understand? Or what will you question next?